May cleared up and cleared up after a shitty winter and spring. My name is Lydia Lawson. My husband Frank. We've been married for 18 years. We are both 39 years old. I am a registered nurse who graduated from a 2-year school. My husband is a diesel mechanic. We met in high school and I was immediately hooked. I work in labor and delivery. He works on a transnational freight line. We have 3 children, Francis Michael, 18 years old, Stephen Jacob, 10, and Lydia Marie, the apple of his eye, 2.5 years old. We got married after he was discharged from the army and have been happy ever since. Or so I thought. The sex was damn good. Mother's Day was quickly approaching. I did my best. So what if it was Mother's Day? I thought it would be good for my husband if Mom had a good time. I made a reservation at an upscale Italian restaurant, followed by a show at a comedy club, followed by dancing and drinks, followed by a penthouse suite reserved for the weekend. The kids went to my parents for a long weekend. Grandma thought it was my gift to her for Mother's Day. Ha, 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 I will take it. I shopped for a little black dress that would shock the Parent-Teacher Association and match Victoria's Secret underwear. Seamed stockings and 4-inch peep toe pumps completed the outfit. My best friend Maxine wanted to know if I was going to seduce anyone. Yes, I grinned, my husband. I think I'll see if he can afford me. She laughed and said that it would be a fait accompli. He'll take one look at that outfit, and you two will probably go to jail for public indecency. I grinned and said, God willing, the stream will not rise. I hid all the goodies in the closet and linen drawers. I told my dumb husband that the second weekend in May was a big one. Don't make any plans. We're going to celebrate. For what occasion, baby? I looked at him like I should take my show on the road. Mother's Day, you asshole. He blushed, chuckled, and laughed. Oh yes, I knew that, he muttered. That Friday dawned clear and bright. I carried out all my errands, took the child to kindergarten, went to the beauty salon, to the bank, went to the Sheraton, picked up key cards, everything was taken care of. Then I headed home. I packed the kids' bags and moved forward until the school bus pulled up and dropped my kids off. Fine, I said, get your bags and let's go. Grandma and Grandpa are waiting, and we still need to pick up Lydia from kindergarten. The 2 boys immediately whined, but we're hungry. And McDonald's too. I'm not just another pretty face. We picked up Lydia and went to the bus station. The man in the box took our order. We paid and went to Grandma's. We pulled into the driveway and the kids poured out, leaving all the expedition doors open. The baby was still locked in her car seat, waiting for her mom, covered in apple slices and French fries. I unfastened her and laid her on the ground, and she ran off, smiling at her grandparents. I pulled my backpacks and diaper bag out of the car and closed the doors. Boys, I shouted. My lost sons rushed back, grabbed their luggage, and raced back inside. I shook my head and shouldered the diaper bag. I went inside, talked to the parents, told the children to behave, and kissed them all. Mom told me to have a good time. Dad admonished me to behave. I'm married to a guy, Dad. I hugged them and kissed them both, heading off to a weekend of passion, sex, and love. I returned home, looked at the clock, and realized that I still had a lot of time. I went upstairs, undressed, and ran a bath. While the bathtub was filling, I looked at myself in the full-length mirror. Not bad for a 39-year-old mother of 3, I thought. I put an old-fashioned shower cap on my hair and slipped into the garden tub. I lay down in the bath, letting the water cool, and got out of the bath, draining the bath. I dried myself off, took off my shower cap, and fiddled with my hair. Yes, I thought, not bad for an old lady. He'll get his money's worth tonight and tomorrow, and then we'll have sex until Sunday. We'll go to church on Sunday night before we pick up the kids. I sparingly sprayed perfume in all suitable places, his favorite Shalimar, and put on old cotton underwear. I took my tattered old comfortable terry robe, put it on, and fastened the belt. I grabbed a bottle of lotion and sat down to smooth my freshly shaved legs. I took out my small suitcase and clothes bag and packed all my sexy goodies. Then I grabbed a pair of skinny jeans, a cotton bra, and a t-shirt. I got dressed, went downstairs, and made coffee. Frank then returned home. Okay, let's take a shower and get dressed. I have everything collected and ready. We need to get to the hotel and check in. Joel, Maxine, Mary, and Mark will meet us at the restaurant. Come on, hurry up. I worry. Cannot wait. Why are you so excited? I hung up my jacket and went upstairs to change. And what do you want me to wear? You're not fully dressed. Pull up your pants and put on a clean shirt. I've already packed your suit, clean underwear, and shoes. Let's hurry. I grumbled, went to the bathroom, and relieved myself. I took off my clothes and took clean jeans and a t-shirt. I went to the toilet, took a shower, and shaved. I don't know what she's so excited about. Oh yeah, Mother's Day. I think I'll have to perform. Then I started smiling and remembered that day in the warehouse. This wonderful sex with the assistant in the warehouse. My wife is so ignorant that she thinks she understands everything. Damn, on those nights when she works shifts, the sexy blonde rocks my world. The only downside was that I had to wear protection. Storekeeper, she said that she had a friend, 26 years old, who would like to get a little of my attention. Sure, why not, I thought. There's no point in not sharing the wealth. After I got dressed, I put on my slip-ons and combed my hair. I looked in the mirror and decided that this would be enough until we reached the hotel. I lazily went downstairs and grabbed the extra luggage that wasn't already in the car. What will we do? I asked innocently. She looked at me and rolled her eyes. At the expedition, stupid. I'm going to look great when we get to dinner, and I'm not going to get out of a dirty F-250. Come on, honey, impress me. Make it look like you're driving your girlfriend around while your wife is having a blast with the kids. I froze and almost lost my grip, but I pulled myself together and said, anything for my hot girlfriend. Phew, it's gone. She smiled, came up to me, and started kissing me. We got out and boarded the expedition. I reached over and buckled her seatbelt, surprising her. When I fastened the shoulder strap, she giggled and kissed me. I walked around the car, got behind the wheel, started the car, and backed out of the driveway. 35 minutes later, we arrived at the Sheraton Hotel's circular driveway and stopped at the main entrance. The doorman opened the doors for us and took our luggage. We walked inside and walked past the reception desk. What about registration? I asked. Your hot girlfriend already arranged everything, she replied, waving the key cards in the air. If she had looked, she would have seen the shock on my face when Lydia said girlfriend, but she was on the wave, enjoying the moment. Lydia. We went to the elevator and went up to the 12th floor. We walked down the hall to room 1217. I opened the door. We unpacked our suitcases and unpacked our things. I undressed and took my underwear and stockings, waving them to my husband, and went to the bathroom to get dressed. I put the finishing touches on my hair, put on stockings, a black lace garter belt, and black lace panties. I looked at the transparent bra and hesitated. What the hell, I thought. I can do it. I threw the bra on the sink. I checked myself in the mirror and grabbed a terry robe from the hook on the bathroom door. I went out and took the dress out of the wardrobe case. My slow-witted husband was drinking beer and watching an Astros baseball game. Get dressed, or you will be without sex for the entire weekend, I screamed. He jumped up and kicked off his slip-ons. He blushed. Yes, madam, he muttered. Shaking my head, I walked back into the bathroom, slammed the door, and took a deep breath. Sometimes, I muttered, here I am all ready for passion, and he acts like we're in a sports bar. I opened the plastic case from the store and took out the dress. It was iridescent black, 3 inches above the knee, and had a slit at the front. There was a bold gold zipper at the back, and the neckline went almost to the waist, but was covered with sheer black lace. My breasts were on display, but discreetly. Like I said, the Ta would be shocked because they would be jealous. I looked in the mirror and was satisfied. I went into the room and found that my husband was dressed like a brand new man. black trousers and a light cream turtleneck with black loafers. Matching sports jacket. Frank looked good enough to eat. Ooh, how obscene. He looked at me and his eyes lit up as I put on my 4-inch open-toe heels. I took a sheer lace shawl, like a mantilla, and draped it over my shoulders. I looked at Frank with burning eyes. Okay, Tiger, let's get the party started. I have to be careful, otherwise we'll never leave the hotel, I thought. I walked up to him and kissed him chastely, so as not to smudge my lipstick. We left the room and took the elevator down to the lobby. Frank stroked me a few times, and we were like two teenagers. We boarded the expedition and went to Romano's Italian restaurant. We were greeted by head waiter Anthony and shown to our table. Mary and Mark were already there, and the waiter took our drink order. We exchanged news, and soon Maxine and Joel arrived, and the party was in full swing. We had a wonderful dinner and drank enough to loosen up. We went to a comedy club and had a few drinks. 2.5 hours later, with tears of laughter in our eyes, we moved to the Adobe nightclub. We got a table next to the dance floor. The girls immediately dragged the guys to dance. They managed to get rid of a few drinks from the comedy club. When we got back to the table, we ordered margaritas for everyone, and they complimented us with tequila. Alcohol loosened everyone's tongues, and the conversation turned to seksi. I was about to make a reservation at that club downtown, you know, the one where the football player took a married woman away for the weekend and her husband followed them and killed them both. Yeah, Frank grinned. My kind of guy. I would never put up with that kind of crap. The guy might be some famous football player, but a fight is a fight. I'd make him pay. I looked at my husband and felt that this excited me. Damn, I thought, he would fight for me. Then the conversation changed a little. My husband felt confident. Now, if it were the other way around, I would take advantage of the situation. If you can't control your wife, it's your loss. Control your wife? Your loss? What is he talking about? At that moment, 4 attractive young women walked through the front door. Joel looked back and nearly spilled his margarita. 4 attractive young ladies were led to a table across the dance floor from us. Isn't that Linda Grebel, the Sports Illustrated model? Joel said. Mark turned and looked. Jesus, it's her, page 67, orange bikini. This photo was legendary. Even my son saw her and thought she was Goricey. Bleached hair, said Maxine, a fellow nurse at the hospital where I work. Mary snorted, Plastic Barbie. These aren't real, Mark. Get your eyes back. Mary worked in the IT department of a hospital. The guys lowered their eyes and blushed. 2 of the young women headed towards us. One of the women was Linda Grebel. The other was a striking-looking girl of Oriental origin. Damn, that's Linda Grebel, and the other one, I'm pretty sure, is Alyssa Cho, Joel said. They came to the table and literally looked down at us. Good evening, guys. My name is Linda, and this is Alyssa. Would you like to dance, gentlemen? Frank, Joel, and Mark stood up and stuttered. Maxine and Mary were fuming, and this was going to be terrible. So I intervened. No, thank you, ladies. Our husbands are already busy, but it was kind of you to offer. Linda looked at me with a contemptuous grin. I wasn't talking to you, Grandma. I talked to handsome guys. I haven't fought with cats since high school. I was on my feet, and in the blink of an eye, I was in the face of this bitch. Which part of no didn't you understand, you fool? It's Mother's Day weekend, and I'm not in the mood to spoil it. But a small distraction like trampling your skinny ass would set me off. The 2 women backed away, and Alyssa grabbed Linda's arm and pulled the other woman away. They're not worth it, she whispered. Linda pulled her hand away and stared at me. You're lucky I just want to have fun. Otherwise, I might ruin my nails. Hey, I have 3 kids. One of them is a teenager. This bitch didn't stand a chance. Come on, bitch. Frank saved her ass. Well, honey, finish your drink and let's dance some more. I scowled at the 4 prostitutes on the dance floor, sighed, turned around, drank the rest of my margarita, and grabbed Frank's hand. mine headed to the dance floor. The song ended, and we returned to our table, and I picked up my little black purse. I need to powder my nose. Maxine and Mary grabbed their paws, and we adjoined the little girl's room. I listened to the call of nature, and as I began to pull on my panties, I thought to myself, Grandma, right, I'll show her. I put the piece of lace in my purse and straightened my dress. I joined my two comrades at the mirrors and touched up my war paint. For a minute, I thought you were having some kind of entertainment. You handled it well, Red Sonja, Mary chirped. Maxine smiled as she touched up her mascara. I'm impressed, Lydia. Put her in her place. It would still be interesting. She grinned. You guys can't help me, I grinned. I want to get laid tonight, not be arrested for cleaning the children's watches. I put on my lipstick again and smiled in the mirror. Come on, let's go raise the temperature a little. I took the margarita and drank the rest. The girls had just reached the ladies' room when the two models returned. So your mom tells you what you can and can't do. I looked at her, and of course, being my own man, I looked at her and said, heck no. Mark paused and said, Frank, I don't think that's a good idea. Joel was clearly shocked and grabbed my hand. This will end badly, Frank. I pulled myself free and grinned at my two friends. Am I the only one with dignity? We went out onto the dance floor, sandwiched between two babies, and started dancing. Linda leaned over and whispered in my ear, let's have the party somewhere else. Or do you need to get your mom's permission? I bowed and said that a person does what he wants when he wants. We turned around and left the club, picking up two other women along the way. We walked out of the closet, humbly shaking everything God had given us. But when we got to the table, something went wrong. There were only two adult males sitting there. We approached with a little less swagger. The embarrassment was obvious. Where's Frank? I asked. He's probably at the bar, I thought. But the boys didn't seem too happy. They were deathly pale and shifted uncomfortably in their seats when we approved. They noticed us and jumped to their feet. Lydia, we're so sorry Frank didn't listen to us, Joel said. Two models came back and asked us to dance. We didn't do anything, Mark said, but Frank couldn't get away fast enough. I turned around and looked to where those women of easy virtue were. Their table was empty, and the waitress was clearing it away. Son of a bitch, I muttered. What the hell is Frank up to? They dragged Frank onto the dance floor. They attacked him as soon as you went to the ladies' room. Maxine exploded. And you two let them. Mary chimed in. You two are disgusting. I collapsed into a chair. Where's my Frank? At that moment, my phone beeped. Lone Ranger theme, it was my husband. I opened it with my thumb and saw my scumbag husband with these depraved women. Apparently, they were in the back seat of a limousine. Linda Grebel's face appeared on the screen. Hey, Grandma, we saw you weren't using it, so we borrowed it for the weekend. Don't worry, old lady, we'll get him back on Monday, maybe. She was laughing. My soon-to-be ex-husband pulled away from her and, with a look of crap on his face, said, Don't worry, honey. There is something to share. Son of a bitch, I exclaimed. Maxine and Mary watched the video as it continued and turned pale. Hey, we're heading to the hotel room, so you might want to join us there. See you soon, baby. I screamed and fell apart. I cried and hit my head on the table. Two of my friends came to my aid. Mary looked with hatred at the two fools my friends were married to. Go home and stay there. Maxine continued, You might want to move into a spare bedroom, if not out of state. Move. Mary helped me up. Come on, sweetie. We will try to fix this. They took me out, and we went to the hotel. We drove up to the front door and entered. I half straightened up, and we headed to the reception desk. The girl at the desk looked up, smiled, and asked if she could help us. Yes, I said. My husband and I have an emergency. We need to go home immediately. I think he's upstairs getting our luggage. Could you cancel our booking, please? Number 1217. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Lawson. I can take care of this for you, but I cannot refund your money. I'm really sorry." I looked at her and said, "It's okay, honey. Just cancel your reservation. After all, it's not your fault." She gave me the receipt and we turned around and left. I started crying again, then the anger bubbled to the surface. Maxine took my keys and helped me into the passenger seat. "Please take me to my parents." Maxine said, "Of course, sweetie. Just let me go home and get the car. I'll follow you." As we drove to Maxine and Joel's, Mary said to me, "Give me your number, sweetie." Mary and Maxine. I worked in the hospital computer department where Maxine and Lydia worked. I served in the Air Force and was assigned to the Pentagon's Cyber Warfare Division before leaving and marrying Mark. Lydia handed me her phone and asked, "What are you doing?" First of all, I save the last call from any nonsense "sorry, honey," and then I move it to the cloud. Now you have proof of what you want to do. If you get any more correspondence from this man-stealing hen, save it in your gallery, and I'll show you how to move it. Lydia immediately started crying again, and we told her everything would be okay. We will overcome this and make them all pay. We pulled up to her parents' house, and Lydia looked at her watch. It was midnight. "Oh, damn, it's so late, but I can't go home. What should I do?" "You go there, hug your children, and tell your parents everything that happened. We'll stay for a while and then see you tomorrow. How do you like it?" "I don't know what I would do without you two. Thank you very much." And Lydia began to cry. Again. We stopped, walked to the front door, and rang the bell. The lights were on in the living room, and we could hear the TV. The door opened, and Lydia's father, Joseph, appeared on the threshold. I'm shocked. "Princess, what happened? Where's Frank?" Lydia began to cry again, and her father gathered her up and told us all to come in. Her 15-year-old son Michael came out into the hall and rushed to his mother. "Mom, what happened? What's happened?" Lydia fell apart. She knelt down and her beautiful black dress wrinkled and tightened around her crumpled body. Michael came closer and she hugged him. "Oh, baby, Mommy is so sorry." Lydia's mother came out of the living room, wrapped in a terry robe. We were just about to go to bed. "What happened, Lydia?" she gasped. We helped Lydia to her feet and led her into the living room. Her father turned off the TV and we all sat down. We told Michael to go to his room and then told them the horror story. Her parents sat in horror when the details became known. Lydia's father, Joseph, was an assistant district attorney, and her mother, Francine, worked as a nurse practitioner. In addition to their daughter, Lydia, they had two sons. The eldest was a Texas state trooper. The youngest is a local policeman. Her father was furious, but his mind was working. "What do you want to do, Princess?" She was crying. "I want my life back, Dad. I just want everything to be the same as it was before tonight." The song Lone Ranger's Theme started playing on her phone. I took it and opened it. It was from the Party Girls, and they were definitely having fun. Alyssa Cho pressed her face to the screen and said, "Hey, old lady, we're trying not to hurt him, but I don't think you'll see him until Wednesday." Then Linda Grebel pushed her aside and said a bunch of more nasty details about their evening. Our friend almost lost consciousness. Her screams probably woke up her two other children. "It's a shame you didn't join us. When the hotel kicked us out of your room, we just moved the party to ours." Her gaze became angry. "See you on Wednesday, bitch." Lydia's father was furious. "What do you want to do, dear?" Her mother held her in her arms as Maxine continued to kiss her hair. I took the phone, saved everything, and transferred it. That's when Michael spoke. "What did Dad do? Was it with that woman of easy virtue at work?" All heads turned to Mikhail, and his grandfather approached him. "What do you mean, son? I want you to be honest with me, okay? Tell Grandpa the truth." Michael looked like he was about to throw up. "Last month, the school was closed due to a power cut, and Dad was not at home. He took Steve and me out to get some tools. Steve buried his face in his phone, so I went with Dad because his service bay is always tidy. He grabbed the necessary tools and then told me to wait here while he checked a few things. He walked into the parts area and I saw him kissing this lady. They went to the back, behind the shelves. I heard her laugh. Grandpa, they kissed, hugged, and other things. Lydia's father seemed to have aged 10 years. Lydia howled, and the look in her eyes made me glad I wasn't Frank. Lydia turned and looked at her father. I want him to pay, Dad. I want to hurt him. And again she burst into tears. Francine helped her daughter to her feet and took her to her old room. Joseph looked at his watch and turned to us. I'm going to call in a little while and start proceedings against this asshole son-in-law of mine. Thank you, girls. It's nice to know she has friends like you. No problem, Joe. Let us know if you need anything. We will go home and give our husbands hell. We went out and got into Maxine's car. Just wait until I get home, Mary said. I'll whip him a new ass and he'll sleep on the couch for 2 weeks, asshole. Maxine turned and looked at me. Is that all? What do you mean, that's all? Damn, I'm going to sell his golf clubs, said Maxine. Oh, you're mean, girl. Really evil, I grinned. I love my daughter endlessly. She was hurting, and I wasn't going to let it go. On Saturday morning, I called an old friend from the prosecutor's office. He left because there was too much politics in the office. This and his best friend made him an offer he couldn't refuse. He was now a partner in the law firm of Tremaine, Anderson, and Dowling. He was younger than me. Now he had a wife and 3 children. He answered the second call. Hey, Joe, what's up? Not bad. How are your wife and children? They're fine, sir. What about yours? Actually, that's why I'm calling. Isn't one of your partners a top-notch divorce lawyer? Giselle Anderson, she's the best. Pause. I hope you and the missus are okay. No, Alan, but my future ex-brother-in-law is about to run into trouble. I'm sorry, sir. I'll send you her information right now, including her mobile. I'll arrange a meeting for you and your daughter for Monday morning. Sorry again, sir. Thank you, son. I saved the text and added phone numbers to my contacts. I looked at the time. 10:30 in the morning. I decided to try calling her. After 4 rings, a lady answered. It felt like I was connected to her machine, which was obviously high-end. The audio was crystal clear. Hello, this is Giselle Anderson. Who am I talking to? Mrs. Anderson, this is Joseph Custer. Sorry to bother you, but I need your services. Brief pause. Are you the assistant prosecutor for Montgomery County? She asked. I chuckled. Guilty, madam. I hope you won't hold it against me. Not at all, counselor. What can I do for you? My daughter needs the best divorce lawyer, and Alan Dowling says you're the man. She grinned. I guess I'll have to buy donuts on Monday morning to compensate. What's the problem? I briefly outlined the situation to her and told her that Lydia needed a restraining order and she had children. I talked about the illegal substance we saw in the text message. I will need to see everything you have. Bring your daughter and her friend to my office at 9 in the morning on Monday. Bring everything. And tell her not to do anything stupid. The restraining order will be delivered to your house as soon as my tamed judge issues it. Are we okay, counselor? I think my princess is in good hands, counselor. Thank you. For the record, I have officially been appointed as Mrs. Lydia Lawson's lawyer in the matter of her upcoming divorce. That's it. You can now pay me the retainer on Monday when you come in. Enjoy your weekend, what's left of it. Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. We appreciate it. I hung up and my wife came over and hugged me and kissed my nose. If only everyone were as happy as we are, I thought. Francine walked over and took his hand. Who was on the phone, dear? I sighed. It was Giselle Anderson. Alan Dowling recommended her for Lydia's divorce. I hired her. We can always stop the process if they decide otherwise, but I don't think they'll go back to it. He dialed his eldest son's number and told him what was happening. Oh my God, Joe Jr. said. What are we going to do, Dad? Is Lydia okay? He used his childhood nickname for his sister. At that moment, Joe S.R. heard voices in the background. "Who's on the phone, baby?" It was Joe's wife, Consuelo. She was a high school teacher and mother of 5 children. "Dad, honey, Lydia is getting a divorce." "What?" she screamed. She walked over and grabbed the phone from her husband's hand. "Dad, what the hell?" "We'll explain later, Connie. For now, just keep Lydia in your prayers." "Mater Dios, we will, Dad." Her husband took the phone back and told his father to keep them updated. He dialed his second son, who had only been married for about 7 months. He chuckled when he heard the sleepy voice. "Hi, Dad, how are you?" Then, "Good morning, Dad. How are you and Mom?" Joe smiled. His new daughter-in-law was sweet and cheerful. She lost both her parents in a car accident. The culprit was a drunk driver. The newlyweds tried to have a child, and they made every effort to achieve this. Joe's second son, William, was the officer who arrested the guy. "Thank God for body cameras," Joe said, as they showed the drunk swearing and trying to hit William. "Do you know who my father is?" "No, and I don't care. You're under arrest for Dewey, vehicular homicide, fleeing the scene, and assault on a police officer." He read him his rights, handcuffed him, and put him in a police car. Paramedics treated his wounds and documented everything. My father assigned the case to Alan Dowling because his son was the arresting officer. This was Alan's last case, and he locked up this guy for 25 years. Roman 2 went to Jennifer's apartment to tell her the news. When she opened the door, my life changed. Jennifer was sweet, lively, and smiling. "Oh, damn, why me?" I thought. I was lucky to have an older black officer as my partner. "Are you Miss Jennifer Lawson?" "Yes," she smiled at us. She looked me up and down and then smiled widely. "If you're going to arrest me, can I ask him to conduct a search?" She pointed at me. I blushed and looked at her. "Sorry, Lord," I thought. Lucy, my partner, sighed and took the lead. "I'm sorry to tell you this, Miss Lawson, but your parents died in a car accident." Jennifer's smile froze, and she began to fall to the floor. But I was quick and caught her. I picked her up and carried her to the sofa. Lucy went to the kitchen and returned with a cold, wet towel. We stayed with her until she came to her senses and asked if we could call someone. "No, I'm an only child. I just moved here and I'm starting a new job on Monday. I don't have any other relatives. I don't have anyone." She lost her composure. She was crying uncontrollably. Her expression melted my heart. Lucy thought about it and said, "I'll try to find someone from social services who could stay with you." While Lucy was getting the radio out, I made a quick decision. "No, let me call my older sister Lydia. She's a nurse, and she wouldn't mind coming over to help." Hope. I quickly dialed Lydia's number, and long story short, Lydia dropped the kids off at Mom and Dad's, and she came to stay with Jennifer. She brought her to Mom and Dad for a few days, and Jennifer found herself part of our family. I fell deeply in love with her, and she with me. I proposed, she accepted, and we found ourselves married and lying in bed late on a Saturday morning, discussing world affairs. Dad explained everything he knew while we listened on speakerphone. Jen jumped up, threw off the blanket, and ran to the bathroom. "Come on, lazybones. Lydia needs our help. We'll be there as soon as we can." Joseph smiled. His family got together. About 20 minutes later, Lydia came downstairs. She looked terrible. She was still tired. She hardly slept. Her children were already up and watching Saturday morning cartoons. 10 minutes later, William and Jennifer arrived. Jennifer became close to her future sister-in-law and studied to become a nurse at the University of Houston. She flew into the house, kissed and hugged her relatives, and hugged Lydia. Her husband was right behind her, and everyone was gathered around the large dining table. Joseph Jr. and Consuelo soon arrived with their 3 youngest children. Their oldest daughter was a freshman in college, and their second child was at baseball practice. The 3 youngest children ran around Lydia's children in the backyard, and a council of war was called. Joseph S.R. laid out everything they knew and said they had an appointment with a lawyer on Monday morning. He asked Lydia to contact Mary and Maxine and ask them to be there. Through sobs and tears, she said she would do it. But her resolve grew stronger. Her sadness turned to cold rage. How could he do this to me? She seethed. How could he do this to us? Her mother consoled her and said that some men often do not think with their own heads. Her husband and sons avoided her gaze and were glad that they were not included in their mother's generalization. Her daughters-in-law hugged her and glared at their husbands. Guilt by association. Not that Dad would ever do anything like that. I took my sons aside and explained that they would not be involved in the police case against their current son-in-law, although they clearly would like to. He called the sheriff's department, informing them of the alleged use of illegal substances. Arrest warrants will be issued on Monday. Once they're done with the lawyer on Monday, he'll assign the case to his best man. Grandma and the girls began preparing dinner, although the children had already eaten sandwiches, hot dogs, and beans. The rest of the weekend passed slowly, with little joy, but a lot of love and compassion. Nothing was heard from Frank and the women of easy virtue, as they began to be called. Maxine and Mary came to visit, without their two very remorseful husbands. They said they would be at the law office on Monday morning and told Lydia she could handle it. Monday arrived, and we arrived at the law firm of Tremaine, Anderson, and Dowling. We were ushered into Geisel Anderson's offices on the third floor. Mrs. Anderson was already there, and we entered a rather cozy, living room-like conference room. Waiting for us were Jake Dunleavy, a paralegal, Louise Smith, also known as one of her sharks, her paralegals, and Giselle's secretary. We sat down, and a few moments later Giselle came in. My father introduced us all. I was still in disarray. Giselle looked at the tapes and listened to the story of that fateful night. She asked Maxine and Mary a few questions, then my father, and finally turned to me. Lydia, what do you want to do? It's your decision because it's your marriage. You have a strong case, especially with minor children and the charge of abandonment. We will send our investigators to monitor your husband and determine whether there is any basis for allegations of his having affairs at work. As far as I understand, no one has heard from him since Friday evening, and you have not been able to find him. So the decision is yours. The restraining order is already in effect, and as soon as we find your husband, it will be served on him. We will also amend it to include 4 women. It's up to you, dear. As I sat there, I saw my whole world crumble. My father was sad and angry with Frank. Maxine and Mary were furious and would probably have cut him to pieces if they had found him. I was just furious and disappointed with everything. Mrs. Anderson looked at me carefully, then shrugged and leaned forward, taking my hand. Listen, honey, it's not your fault. You look like a loving, caring woman who was cheated on and abandoned. It happens. With an example like your parents and brothers, you'd think you'd be fine. But sometimes things happen. You need to protect yourself and your children in that case. That's why the laws are the way they are. They usually harm the man, sometimes unfairly. This is not one of those cases. Now, if you decide you want to go to counseling and try to fix this situation, you can still do that. But once we introduce illegal substances into the matter, it gets messy and the possibility of reconciliation is likely to be greatly reduced. It's up to you, dear. She looked at me with a caring expression, like your grandmother or your favorite, cool aunt. Again, I tried to reconcile all these problems. One thing after another, I thought. Fuck him. He ruined our family. Make him pay. Giselle looked at me with an expression of sadness, as if she had witnessed the death of a family. We'll start the paperwork and hand it over as soon as we find him. She introduced us to Tony Vason, one of her investigators, and introduced him to Lydia and everyone else. Tony will investigate. Now don't do anything to jeopardize that. Nothing stupid, okay? Follow the terms, tell Frank to get a lawyer, and redirect everything to me. We stood up, shook hands, and went home. My father met my brothers at my house to change the locks, and my father put a restraining order in my purse. It's a copy of it. Do not lose it. I smiled. Thank you, Dad. I won't lose it. We all love you, Princess. We are here for you. If you need anything, call. Got it? My father and brothers left, and I was left alone with Maxine and Mary. Are you okay, honey? Maxine asked. Yes, I muttered. I can handle it. We drank coffee. The last thing I needed was alcohol. After some time, the girls went home and raised their husbands again. Mark and Joel wished they had tied the jerk to his chair instead of just sitting there. They will be out of favor for a long time. Everything calmed down for a while. Arrest warrants and subpoenas were issued. 4 women from the club were found in Surfside, Texas. They were doing a photo shoot for a magazine in Galveston, Texas. They were served with summonses and lawsuits for alienation of affection. It turned out that 2 of them were married. They immediately hired lawyers. 4 models were charged with trafficking in illegal substances. When they went to court, the police searched their limousine. Many of the banned substances were found. They were arrested. A large shipment was also found in the car Frank had rented. It's been about 3 weeks since my marriage failed. I was getting better, but the tears still returned from time to time. My husband was in jail protesting his innocence. The 4 models were in jail, complaining and moaning. Their brands were sued, and suddenly Sports Illustrated wanted nothing to do with them. Like Nike, so did the fashion brand that was going to make them the faces of its line. 2 married models have filed for divorce. One of them had children. Not anymore. Her husband was awarded sole custody based on adultery and controlled substance charges. Why did Frank do this to us? Is it me? Am I that ugly and sad? I decided to even the score. I dressed as I did for Mother's Day and took the kids to my parents, telling them I was going to the movies and staying the night at Maxine and Mary's. I called an Uber and drove to O'Reilly's pub, which was a little more family-oriented than the Adobe Club. Not really, but I wasn't sure what exactly I was hoping to get. Oh, I wanted to make love, but I wasn't sure about the exact circumstances. My thoughts returned to the events of that terrible day. What the hell Mother's Day was, I thought. How could he do this to us? I was thinking. We arrived at O'Reilly's, and I paid the driver and went inside. The temperature inside was cool, and it was a little darker than outside. Several guys were already there, 2 at the bar and 4 more at tables. I slowly walked up to the bar, sat down, and ordered a margarita and 2 tequila shots. The bartender looked at me and said I wasn't from around here, and I don't look like a working girl. Will there be problems? He asked. I hope not, I replied, just looking for some fun. It all started when one of the guys behind the bar approached me with another margarita and a shot. Do you come here often? He asked. My skin started to crawl. Never, I answered. Really? Well then, where do you usually work? No, I meant never with you, freak. His face froze. I guess I looked at him as if I wanted to kill him. He stood up and returned to his seat. You left your drinks, I told him as he left. Keep them, bitch. There's no point in wasting good alcohol, I thought as I drank a shot. My supply of liquid courage was increasing. I finished my margarita and started drinking the one the slug left. 2 guys at one of the tables stood up as the waitress brought 2 more shots. You have been told by 2 gentlemen who are coming towards you, she whispered. You can do better, she whispered. I took 1 shot and drank it in 1 gulp. I threw the glass. Out of this world, guys. I picked up another shot and downed it in 1 gulp, then tossed it next to the first. They froze, looked at each other, and returned to their table, muttering. I thought that at this rate they could have sex with me, and I wouldn't even remember it. At that moment, 4 men entered the bar, laughing and joking. The bartender waved to the middle-aged, well-dressed man, and the waitress smiled and headed straight to their table. The waitress laughed and nodded, returning to the bar and passing the order to another bartender. I studied with a group of men. One was about my age, tall, handsome, with dark brown hair and well-built. The second was younger, about 25, with short black hair and very well built. He blushed and laughed, and it seemed that the others were making fun of him. The third man was a large black man who was constantly laughing and smiling, making fun of the young guy. The fourth man was about my age, tall and well built. He had blonde hair and blue eyes and was always smiling. He looked like an older brother. He gave me an appraising look, smiled, and turned back to his friends. I assessed the group and decided to take a risk. When the waitress returned from their table, I signaled to her and ordered another shot and one margarita. When she brought them, I asked who these guys were. She looked over her shoulder, then turned to me. "This is Mr. Tremaine and some of his friends. They come here sometimes, usually to celebrate something." I asked her to bring them drinks and add them to my bill. Christina, the waitress, looked at them, then back at me. "Are you sure? They're not players, you know." I grinned and said, "All men are players." She looked at me and shrugged. "Your money." My core temperature rose, and my courage increased thanks to the tequila. Christina walked over to their table and set down their drinks. I stood up, a little hesitantly, and walked towards them while the waitress explained the drinks and pointed at me. The four men turned as I approached their table, and they all stood up. "Mind if I join you cute guys? It's lonely at the bar, and I'm getting bored." I started having second thoughts. A good-looking older guy told Christina that everything was fine. They will take care of the situation. The blonde pulled up another chair and placed it between himself and the older guy. I sat down, and then they sat down and introduced themselves. "My name is James Tremaine," said the older guy. "The gentleman to your left is Peter Donegan. The young man who is blushing is Michael Petrovsky, and this imposing gentleman," he pointed to the black man, "is Joseph Lapierre. What's your name?" My name is Linda, yes, Linda Barnes." Mr. Tremaine looked at me as if he didn't believe me, but didn't say anything. The young guy smiled and blushed. The older black guy nodded at me and continued drinking. A good-looking guy, Peter, kept his eyes on me, and I felt like I was fully clothed. I was a little confused and didn't know what to do next. This was new to me. I haven't been on a hunt. Oh, since my student days. Moreover, I never thought about proposing to four guys at the same time. I was blushing and my heart was beating like a drum. My conscience was fighting and my common sense was failing thanks to the large amount of alcohol I consumed. I changed my tactics. "So what are you guys drinking?" "Well, Mr. Lapierre is enjoying a vintage pink lemonade. Mr. Petrosky is sipping Mountain Dew, and Mr. Donegan is enjoying his second Dr. Pepper." I coughed. "And you?" "I enjoy sweet iced tea, the house wine of the South, so to speak, with a slice of lemon." I looked at him and giggled. "Hey, I'm not a barbarian," I giggled in response. I looked at them and thought about my children. My resolve crumbled and the alcohol confused me. I started crying, knocking over my drink. At that moment, Peter Donegan moved towards me and hugged me. Mr. Tremaine looked at me carefully, then sighed. "Okay, what's your real name and why are you here?" he said. She was all in tears and sobs and told us her story. "My name is Lydia Lawson. My husband is in prison and has already been served with divorce papers." I know," I said. "Mrs. Anderson is your lawyer, and Alan Dowling is prosecuting your husband's criminal case." I signaled to Christina, and she hurried to our table. "Darling," I said, "no more drinks. Bring us a large thermal coffee mug with cream and sugar. And maybe your grandmother is not busy. I think she's going to the movies with Mr. Lodge." She giggled and blushed. She said it was a date. Well, she might be a little upset with me. I put Giselle's number on the speed dial, and after 3 rings, she answered. "It must be something important, James." I chuckled and said, "Giselle, I think I have one of your lost lambs here, and she needs some backup." "Details, James." "Lydia Lawson," is all I said. "Oh shit." Everyone at the table shuddered. Giselle never swore, and this was the closest anyone had ever heard her say. Where are you? O'Reilly's Bar and Grill on the west side. We'll find him. Don't let her out of your sight. We won't let her go. We start feeding her coffee to bring her to her senses. Oh shit. Now she was really worried. 20 minutes later, we had Lydia's story, and it looked like Peter was ready to take revenge on her husband. We explained that we were there to celebrate Michael's acceptance into the Texas police force, where Sergeant Lapierre was a member. And my new wife is pregnant. With triplets, he smiled. We all smiled, and Joe said that Michael constantly brags about this fact, while Miranda, his wife, will do all the hard work. This caused a wave of laughter and Michael to blush even more. At that moment, the door opened and Giselle Anderson walked in, followed by a tall, distinguished gentleman. We stood up as the very determined number 2 at Tremaine. Anderson and Dowling walked up to the table and took my place. I turned and shook hands with Samuel Lodge, President and CEO of Raptor Petroleum. Giselle looked at Lydia with that stern grandmotherly look and asked what she was thinking. You want to lose your children and jeopardize your divorce? What did I tell you? Then she turned to me with the same look and began, and you, James, you ruined a potentially great date. The G3 was already ready to take us to Los Angeles for the movie premiere. I looked at Mr. Lodge, and he just shrugged and smiled. Giselle continued, You're lucky I'm in a very good mood. She then began to smile and extended her left hand. It was hard to miss the 2.5-carat diamond. Grandmother, Christina screamed. Samuel Lodge continued to smile and finished his bourbon and soda. Can I have one more, Christina darling? Don't worry, the driver is driving. Lydia's divorce went smoothly. Their children really did not want to see their father since he was serving a sentence of 10 to 15 years. The models' careers were destroyed and they disappeared from the public eye, except for Linda Grebel. Frank Lawson claimed he knew nothing about illegal substances and had no suspicion of any sexual impropriety he had committed. Peter was a constant guest in Lydia's home and life. Things were getting serious. Peter came over one Sunday to take her 2 sons to the Texans versus Giants football game. James Tremaine had access to Samuel Lodge's VIT box and was a big New York Giants fan. Peter not so much. But he was a big fan of Lydia Lawson-Custer and was trying to score points with her children. They left, and soon after Mary and Maxine arrived with their children. Everyone was gathered around the TV watching The Sound of Music when the doorbell rang. Lydia opened the door and Linda Grebel stood there. She was in a little shabby condition and hit Lydia. You fucking old witch. You stopped me of my job, my contracts, and my career. You will pay for this. Lydia retreated and told Mary to dial 911. She was under attack. Linda approached Lydia, and when she was about to claw her eyes out, Lydia hit her. The police arrived 10 minutes later thanks to Lydia's brothers. When Peter and the boys returned home, the boys bombarded their mother with stories about the match. The Texans won in the final minutes with a goal, and James Tremaine was deeply depressed. His 5-year-old daughter Sonia was filled with joy and tried to cheer up her father. Peter asked how their day was, and the 3 ladies looked at each other and smiled. Nothing special, very calm. And so it was. Maybe Peter is what Lydia needs. Let's see. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think. Click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click to the next one.